In 2018 on Karakoram Mountains in India, an explorer encounters a glowing sphere of ice. He breaks a small part of the ice with his pickaxe, and a bright light coming out blinds him and renders him unconscious. He wakes up a few seconds later, but the sphere has disappeared and he is only left with a scar on his hand. Fast forward to the present day. Astrobiologist Helen is finishing up a class. After that she goes home, which she shares with her stepson Jacob. Helen was married to Jacob's father, but he passed away a year ago. Now she is trying to raise Jacob on her own, but things hasn't been smooth. Helen is trying her best to connect with Jacob, but he has fully locked her out. While preparing dinner, Helen gets a call from a mysterious man. The man informs her that people are coming to her home to pick her up. Suddenly she hears a knock on her door, and when she opens, government agents are waiting for her. She is told that she is needed for something important and that she must leave with them now. She asks why, but she is told she will know when she gets there. With no choice, Helen leaves Jacob with a neighbor and leaves with the men. They arrive at Fort Linwood, where she joins other scientists. Her boss, Michael, invites her to a conference room and informs her that he is the one that requested her presence. Michael then starts his presentation. He reveals that NASA have been tracking an identified object through space, which suddenly turned course and now coming directly to Earth. Michael reveals the object is flying to Manhattan, and when it hits it will kill 8 million people. The scientist proposes they evacuate the people, but Michael tells them there is only 78 minutes left, so there isn't enough time to get anyone out. The scientists are then put on a helicopter as they formulate a plan, but they can't come up with a good idea. The timer then reaches 0 and everyone waits for the impact. Suddenly the object slows down as it enters Earth's atmosphere and a giant sphere spaceship lands in the middle of Central Park. The helicopter lands close to the spaceship and military personnel circle it. The door to the spaceship opens and Helen starts walking around it. Then an alien comes out of the spaceship, which scares off one soldier who shoots it down. A gigantic robot emerges, emitting a sound that paralyzes humans and disrupts all electrical systems in New York City. Before the robot can take the alien back, it is ordered to shut down by the alien. The alien is gathered up by the military and rushed to the military hospital where the doctors try to revive the dying alien. After they stabilize him, a surgeon is brought in to remove the bullet. As he starts making an incision, the alien's outer skin starts breaking down. The doctor then notices the alien has very similar physiology to a human. He then decides to remove all the outer skin and the alien is revealed to be just like a human. This reveals that the icy sphere was holding the baby alien, and when the explorer broke the ice, the baby alien took a small part of his skin and it covered himself with it. Now he has a human body and looks exactly like the explorer. The alien fully wakes up a few hours later and Helen talks to him. He knows fluent English, so there are no communication barriers. She asks him his name and he says he is called Klaatu. After some more rest time, Klaatu is visited by the Secretary of State Regina Jackson. She asks him if he is human and he tells her his physical body is. She then asks him why he is here, and he reveals to her that he is representative of a group of alien races sent to talk to the world leaders, and asks to be let go. Regina shuts down his request and tells him he can tell her what he wants. Klaatu refuses and again asks to be let free so he can go to the UN. Regina then talks to Michael and Helen. She asks them to drug Klaatu so they can transfer him to a military base and interrogate him. Michael, knowing interrogating really means torture, refuses to drug Klaatu, but Helen agrees to do it. Helen then goes into the lab and grabs a diluted solution. She then goes to inject Klaatu and whispers to him, "Run." Klaatu is then taken to a secret room and put on a polygraph test. The interrogator starts by asking simple questions, but before he can get into the harder ones, Klaatu uses his power to electrocute the guy and mind control him. He makes him tell him where the exit is and takes his suit. He then accesses the cameras and sees there are a lot of guards, so he uses another power which incapacitates the guards by sending a hurtful voice frequency through their earbuds. Klaatu manages to escape easily, and he makes it as far as a train station when his bullet wound opens. Meanwhile, Helen has returned home and reunited with Jacob. She then gets a call from a hospital, and she is told a patient is waiting for her. Helen is not that kind of doctor, but she realizes the patient is Klaatu, so she takes Jacob with her and travels to the hospital. She takes him out of the hospital and they get into her car. Helen then asks him if he is a friend, and he tells her he is a friend to Earth. He then takes a gel-like substance that Helen was carrying and uses it on his wound. He then gets fully healed in a second, and his wound fully diagnoses. Meanwhile, Regina has heard about his escape, and she has ordered every law enforcement to capture him. His face is all over the news, so they have to be very discreet now. In Central Park, the alien robot is still on standby. The military tries to destroy him, but every time they shoot missiles at it, they get destroyed. They figure out the robot only responds to violence, so they just cover him with a container and manage to capture it and bring it to their facilities for experimentation. At a McDonald's, Klaatu meets with another alien that looks like a human. This alien has been here since 1928 to study humans and report to his superiors. The old guy reports to Klaatu that humans are destructive and that they know it, but they are not willing to change. He says humanity will kill Earth. After hearing the report, Klaatu tells the guy to leave Earth, but the guy refuses. He says, although humans are flawed, he has grown to love them, and he is ready to die on the planet with them. After hearing the report, Klaatu decides in order to save the planet and its millions of species, humans have to be exterminated. Humans have been killing the planet, and they show no sign of change. They must be eliminated, and the planet reset. Helen at first doesn't realize what is happening, but when she sees thousands of spheres picking up all of the different species from Earth and flying away, she figures out what is happening. She then tries to convince Klaatu that the world is not bad and that humans can change the Earth for the better. But he reminds her that her leaders didn't even want to listen to him. Instead, they tried to torture him. Helen then tells him those are not representative of human leaders, and she takes him to the home of Nobel Prize-winning Professor Barnard. As the two discuss, Klaatu reveals that his species were able to evolve. Because they were faced with a dying star, their only way to survive was to change and adapt, which they accomplished. Based on this, Barnard argues humans also should be given the same chance. He argues when humans are faced with extinction, they will also evolve. Jacob, who is sitting in another room, sees Klaatu as a wanted man on the TV, so he calls the police. Helicopters arrive at the area and they manage to capture Helen. Then 2 helicopters try to shoot at Klaatu, but he uses his power to disrupt the helicopter and crashes them. Meanwhile, the military gets ready to start their experimentation on the robot, but it transforms itself into a swarm of insect-like nanites that begin killing everyone and destroying everything, including tanks. Helen is brought to Regina, but after hearing the news about the robot, Regina realizes the only way for human survival is if the aliens let them live. So she releases Helen and Michael joins them. Jacob makes a call to Helen from an abandoned cabin, and they agree to meet up in a cemetery. Jacob and Klaatu get there first, and Jacob takes him to his father's grave. He then asks him to resurrect him, but Klaatu tells him he can't. Upset, Jacob starts crying, but Helen hugs him and tells him how much she missed his father. As the two console each other, Klaatu is finally able to see the good side of humanity. He realizes humans indeed can change, and he decides to help them. The problem is the destruction process has already started. The robot that transformed into the nanites is destroying everything in its way and growing larger in the process. The only way to stop the process is from the spaceship, so they start driving that way. They reach the park, but they see no one. Helen senses something and tells Michael to stop the car. Just then, a targeted missile strike authorized by the president hits the sphere. It blasts the car into a tree and kills Michael. The rest survive the missile, but the nanite storm is coming their way fast. They run away into a tunnel, but Jacob and Helen get infected. They start dying immediately, but Klaatu holds their hands and takes out all the nanites from them. Klaatu now knows what to do, but he warns Helen that there will be a price to the human way of life. He then starts making his way through the cloud. His body gets cut up as he passes through, but he manages to get to the sphere and touch it. This causes the sphere to emit a massive EMP, which destroys the nanites, saving humanity. But then we see the price of humanity is that all technology on Earth is also destroyed. All the light, all the electronics, all the cars stop. Klaatu has merged with the sphere, and Jacob and Helen see him as he leaves Earth, and with that, the movie ends.